Today on B&B Movie Reviews, we celebrate Black History Month by highlighting and showcasing some of the Black creatives behind the scenes that may not be household names, but have been major contributors to the entertainment that we love and enjoy. Stay right there. B&B is up next. Welcome to B&B Movie Reviews. Black History Month is a time for us to remember, acknowledge, and celebrate the achievements and accomplishments of men and women in the Black community throughout history. Today on our show, we are looking at the Black creatives in Hollywood and the film industry. Yes, we know the names of Spike Lee, Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington, Ava DuVernay, John Singleton, and Ryan Coogler. But have you heard the names of Kent Powers, Sharon Davis, Michael Abels, Ernest Dickerson, or Hannah Beachler? Well, today we are going to shine a light on some of the Black creatives working behind the scenes you may not know about, who have worked and been a part of some of our favorite films. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the behind the scenes, but for now, we kind of want to talk a little bit about Viola Davis. I know that there's been a lot of conversation around, the Oscar snub for Woman King and how that movie has really kind of been snubbed overall. But Viola Davis, coming off when the time we're doing this recording, has just became the 18th person to be an EGOT.
Amazing.
Yeah, Emmy, for our watchers, an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
And, she's obviously an amazing actor, and we all recognize the power that she brings to the screen.
Yeah.
But I sometimes think that we forget about all the work that she's doing right now behind the screen, especially for a film like The Woman King.
Yeah.
She serves as producer on that movie. And that is a movie that not many people wanted to take a bet on when the idea came out there.
It's hard. And she talks openly about the fights that she had to go through to get this movie made and to get the actresses that she wanted for this movie because of a lot of the way the industry has been run as far as like being able to sell a film. And
Yes.
She had to go into those battles to really try and get this movie made.
Yeah, and then the first battle being, is there an audience for The Woman King, and having to convince these studio executives that, yes, there is, where they say like, well, how will The Woman King relate to the white male, the white female, and her coming back to them and saying, well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but what if it, works for 98% of the Black female audience out there? Isn't that a viable audience? Isn't there money to be made with those viewers? And the answer obviously was yes, and also in the process, Woman King picked up a lot of people that some of those studio execs didn't think was going to happen. Exactly,
and that was a fight worth fighting for because a lot of times with studio executives in Hollywood, they kind of ignore that demographic because they want to have everything focused towards the demographic of the white male, but not knowing, and we've seen this throughout history where we've had Black films that have had wide appeal, that have made a lot of money at the box office, but yet there is still this idea that these type of movies can't make money or that these other demographics are not going to show up. And she's constantly trying to prove and has proven that these movies can make money.
It's unfortunate that when you make a film like The Woman King, that it becomes such a symbol for other films, right?
Yeah.
Because there haven't been too many Black female-led movies like this one. Suddenly, if the film doesn't succeed, all the weight that comes with that.
A lot of pressure.
Thankfully, The Woman King did $19 million on its opening weekend and showed the world that, yes, an all-Black female cast can succeed financially.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get more movies like this one. I think, Viola Davis as a producer is really interesting. the conversation around what does a producer do is sometimes complicated. I like how Viola Davis describes it as being a bit of an interior designer. You know, you have the idea of what the place should look like, and now you just need to hire the people to execute that vision.
The contractors and everybody and everything else. And I like that idea too, as far as a producer, because a producer in the name does feel like a nebulous term, but it is the person that lives with the project from beginning to end. Because if you are bringing on the contractors, a director and actor are only with that project for a certain amount of time. A director is there for the whole production, all the way to the editing process, depending if they're a writer as well. But a producer has probably lived with this project for years.
Have you heard the other metaphor that Viola Davis uses to describe being a producer?
No.
Being a producer is being Morgan Freeman from The Shawshank Redemption. You know, Morgan Freeman, if you needed cigarettes, he'd get you cigarettes.
You know how to get it to you.
Yeah, he knows how to get it to you. So Viola Davis, she knows how to get it to you, right?
Yeah. So I that's a great metaphor. I like that. How do you see, off of this experience of the Woman King, where she could go next from here? Because we've established what, like, a force that she is in the industry, whether it's behind the scenes, definitely in front of the camera, but she works with her husband as her producing partner. Where do you see, like, how can what she has done so far in the industry, where can that go, and how could that open it up for others?
So she works great within the industry. She's going to become an industry if she's not already an industry right now.
Okay.
You know, as an actor, what I appreciate so much about her is her eclectic tastes. She does every kind of movie.
Yeah.
We just got the DCU news that we're going to get a Amanda Waller show.
Yeah.
That's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
But she doesn't, like, you know, permanently connect herself to one kind of story.
No.
And the types of stories that she wants to use, the type of people she wants to uplift, that's what's most exciting about Viola Davis right now. And I really do think that, you know, she is going to be a production house.
Yeah, she's had an eclectic career, and it's been fun to kind of see where her career has gone. I remember seeing her in a bit role in Out of Sight back in 1996.
Great performance, though.
A great performance. You can kind of see it back then, and then to see that and where she has come to now in her career and all the different roles. I mean, from the Help and everything she did with Fences. I mean, she has a vulnerability, but also a strength that she did. The movie she did with Steve McQueen.
Widows. Widows is essential.
Yeah, so I love seeing, like, you're right, the different taste and the types of roles that she takes on.
If you have not watched her interview on Hot Ones, I highly recommend it. She talks about how, yes, there are actually roles that are small. You know, there's that cliche line of, you know, there are no small roles, only small actors. And she goes, no, there are small roles. In fact, I did one on Kate and Leopold where I told Hugh Jackman, you know, he has to get his dog to pick up his poop or something like that. That's a small role. But then, you know, she does something like Doubt, where she has 10 minutes in that movie.
Yeah.
But that's not a small role. She says it's a role that's written within an inch of her life in that Hot Ones interview.
Wow.
And what it's about is finding yourself in that role and then, you know, making that connection with the audience through that character, through that vessel.
Yeah, and bringing that out. Yeah, so definitely Viola Davis is somebody to definitely highlight during this Black History Month. So those are some of the thoughts that we have on Viola Davis. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk about some other Black creatives that you may not know about. Stay right there.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
Welcome back to B&B Movie Reviews. So now we're going to talk a little bit about some Black creatives in Hollywood and in the creative industry that you may not know about. And I guess I am going to start the conversation off. So, Sharon Davis. Sharon Davis, a lot of people talk about Ruth E. Carter. Ruth E. Carter is probably the most notable costume designer.
A legend.
A legend. But Sharon Davis, when I was doing some research and looked her up, she's a costume designer as well. And she has worked on some movies that are some of our favorite movies. She worked on Looper. She worked on Dreamgirls. She did Fences. We just talked about Viola Davis. And she talked about in doing Fences where she kind of wanted to have more of a naturalistic look for that time period and not draw too much attention to itself. And I thought she did a fabulous job in the costuming in Fences. But then I also heard that she does the costuming for Django Unchained, which is definitely one of our favorite films. And to see how she's able to bring out some of the costume designs, you know, whether it's through Broomhilda, whether it's through Django. I mean, one of the most famous shots in Django Unchained is him in that blue outfit.
So good.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
And that stance, that shot that Quentin does, that low angle, like dolly end shot, that hero shot,
Yeah.
right before he, you know, gets the comeuppance on the plantation owners. And a lot of that is due to the costuming.
Any actor will tell you that they find their character through their costume, through their wardrobe.
Yeah.
And you watch Django Unchained and you can see Jamie Foxx morph as the clothes evolve throughout that runtime.
Exactly. From the beginning of that film, when he is still a slave, to when he gets freed and you start to see his clothes start to change, you start to see a change in the character. You start to see more of a bravado, you start to see more of a confidence. And a lot of that, you're right, is due to the costuming.
Yeah,
and,
right down to the glasses, right down to the cigarette holder in the last couple of shots of that movie.
And it goes to the production design, because that in tandem with the costume design creates the world, especially in worlds that are set in a certain time period.
Yeah.
Even if you're going to like something in the 1800s during the slave times, or if you're looking at like the 1960s in something like Fences. So I think all of that stuff plays together, and she does just such a great job. But I guess going to...
I wanted to jump over to the person I wanted to highlight, the filmmaker I wanted to highlight, which is Hannah Beachler, the production designer.
Yeah.
And she often talks about how she finds the sets, she finds the worlds first with the characters, their story, but also costume plays an important role in how she builds those sets and designs those sets. And, you know, Hannah Beachler has a really interesting career. She started out making some pretty hokey, maybe terrible horror films.
We all got to start somewhere.
We all have to start
somewhere.
But she hooks up with Ryan Coogler on Fruitvale Station, an astonishing film. And a film where the production design is kind of invisible. We don't really think about the production design when you look at Fruitvale Station, but it is absolutely there.
Yeah.
That collaboration continues on into Creed. Then eventually to Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I'll get there in a moment.
Okay.
But she also does the production design on Lemonade, right? The Beyonce music video, short film experience. And there's, like, if you want to see a great demo reel of what a production designer can do, watch Lemonade.
That whole, like, you're right. And you turned me on to Lemonade because of, like, all the music. It's basically a film, really. And
it is a film. It is a cinematic experience.
Exactly. And then like seeing some of the exteriors, seeing like the way that she uses, like especially like in the bayous of like Louisiana and everything that she puts together in Lemonade, you can definitely feel the aesthetic of that through her production design. It almost feels like everything through Lemonade is really based on the production design of that.
Yeah. And you get to Black Panther, the first film, where you have to build a universe. You have to build Wakanda. You know, this is like creating Star Wars and the many worlds of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had an opportunity to interview her when the first film came out, and we talked about the challenge, the daunting fear that she experienced in needing to create Wakanda.
Yeah.
And how did she do it? Well, she did it by looking at all the tribes that are represented in Wakanda and seeing their personalities. Again, going to Ruth Carter's costumes.
Exactly.
Building out from the design that Ruth Carter brought.
Yeah.
And then also going to the source material. And I was dying to bring up Jack Kirby, but I didn't want to like influence the interview in any way. But she brought up Jack Kirby and how important those early designs that he had in Fantastic Four and then in his solo run of Black Panther, that she pulled out of that and tried to put her spin on it for the first Black Panther film.
And she does a great job with that. I mean, of course
Undeniable.
she wins. Yeah, and of course she wins her Academy Award for Black Panther for production design. But yeah, I love how they're able to really adapt to some of the bigger budget movies and then these mid to small budget, because like you say, her progression working with Ryan Coogler, and I really love the production design that she does in Creed. I mean, you already know how much I love Creed, but you see the production design, especially in some of the gyms and the way that she puts
the apartments. Look at Rocky's house. Rocky's character is all over that house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same goes for Donnie and his apartment.
The history of the Rocky franchise is all through his apartment with the pictures of Paulie and everything, and then you see it all. So all that informs the character, and that starts with the production design and through the costuming as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I love everything that she's been able to do, everything Sharon Davis has been able to do. So yeah, those are some of our thoughts on the production design and costuming. So definitely look into the career of Sharon Davis and Hannah Beachler. When we come back, we'll take a look at some more Black creatives in the industry. Stay right there.
Jason, let's go see your room.
That's not right. How was it? Is it good?
Welcome back to B&B Movie Reviews. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the behind the scenes creatives in Hollywood that you may not know about. So Brad,
yes.
I know there's some young and upcoming filmmakers that you wanted to discuss. So tell me about.
I wanted to highlight the Ebo sisters,
Okay.
Adane and Adama. They are a duo, kind of like the Coen brothers, right?
Yeah.
They did a short film called Hunk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. And they took that short film, which was, on the surface, it looked like a mockumentary. Where a camera crew was going into a megachurch, a Southern Baptist megachurch, and kind of exposing some of the hypocrisies that the pastor is putting out there in the world. And it's a really clever, biting, angry, funny short film. And when you watch it, you go like, oh, this is kind of like a perfect little gem.
Okay.
How are you going to extend this into a feature? And the Ebo sisters did. And the film stars Sterling K. Brown and Regina Hall as the couple running the megachurch.
Yeah.
And it is also a little bit of a mockumentary, except they introduce actual dramatic elements. So the camera comes off and you get to see what's really going on behind the scenes. And I thought that was a clever way to extend the story.
It's interesting because I did recently just watch on streaming, I watched Hunk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. And I didn't know that it was a short film. And I've seen that that's kind of been a pattern, especially like for a lot of young filmmakers that kind of go through that Sundance process. I know Damien Chazelle did that with Whiplash, and some other filmmakers did that as well. So that's interesting that they started with a short and adapted it into a feature length. The interesting thing about the feature was I went into it and it was kind of sold as a comedy. And it's very comedic, especially when you have Regina Hall and you see the trailer and Sterling K. Brown is putting on this very
it's big,
broad performance.
It's a big performance, yeah.
But watching the movie, I found it very interesting because it does delve into the drama more than I thought that it would, and it goes deep into some issues that I didn't think that it seemed like in other films they would kind of skirt around, but they dive directly into some hard-hitting issues.
I think the film is emotionally complicated and tonally complicated, and maybe not totally successful at every single point in the movie. But because it's so successful in the areas that counts, you kind of forgive maybe the wobbly nature of the comedy sometimes.
Yeah.
But I also think that movie is purposefully embracing those awkward moments. And as an audience member, the movie might be like repelling you a little bit, but you just have to stick with it.
Yeah, and that's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Because there's another filmmaker that I won't name that goes to the point that you just mentioned about sometimes they like to sit in the awkwardness of the scene or the moment. And sometimes that can be done to good effect, but it's a delicate balance to really make that work.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of scenes that I'm thinking of in particular in that film that is really uncomfortable and really awkward, but it really works. And I think that takes a deft hand at directing, and you could definitely see it in their talent and how they direct this movie.
What I appreciate about their approach to Honk for Jesus Save Your Soul is that they don't make villains of anybody, but they recognize the villainy that sometimes rises up in themselves, and we're all capable of it. And it's told with a lot of empathy and understanding, but also it's telling you to question your institutions, especially the institutions that we ask to be in control of our soul.
It's a lot.
You need to question things.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Going to Michael Abels, composer. Now, this is a gentleman that is new to the industry. He has only composed 3 films. He's only worked with Jordan Peele. So he's composed Get Out, Us, and Nope.
Yeah, only 3 films, Brian? Only 3
I
films?
I know.
Only 3 masterpieces, especially when it comes to the scores.
Yes, and that's the thing. When you look at Jordan Peele and his films, a lot of, when you talk about like mood, atmosphere, tension, a lot of that comes through the score, specifically with a movie like Us. And the way that he can take music and pre-existing music and kind of make renditions and how he does that in such an eerie effect.
The trailer for Us alone.
Yeah.
What's going on with the music in the trailer for Us is unreal.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Steven Spielberg, Michael Abels tells this anecdotal story about how Steven Spielberg called Michael Abels the Jordan Peele, the relationship that he has with John Williams.
Oh yeah.
Is the relationship that Jordan Peele has with Michael Abels.
You can see that happening. I hope that happens.
Basically saying that Jordan Peele should always be working with Michael Abels.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what else he's going to do throughout his career. Maybe something away from Jordan Peele.
I'd like to see him branch away from Peele just so I can get more music and different kinds of music from him. But I also never want Jordan Peele to make a movie without him.
Exactly. And such the variety and the diversity. You look at a movie like Nope, and you look at the climax of that movie in the third act. There's such an adventurous score to that when you get into the climax of that film. And you can watch some videos on YouTube with him composing that, because I think that's some pre-existing music that Jordan Peele heard, and then that ultimately made its way into the movie Nope.
And sometimes composers don't like to work that way, to branch off of pre-existing music.
Yeah.
But you don't feel any trepidation with the scores for Michael Abels.
No, and it feels like it all fits. It feels like the music was made for those scenes and for that film.
Yeah, and I think like with Get Out, like I can hear the score right now.
Yeah.
Right? I can hear the score for Us right now. And if you were to remove those scores from those movies...
Completely different.
I mean, they're great movies, right?
Yeah.
They're great movies. I'm sure they'd be effective with somebody else working on them, but I don't know if they'd be as effective.
No. I always say the score is like the seasoning to a good dish. It's like sometimes it could be plain, but you need that seasoning in order for it to...
But they are scores that you can also work separate from the film. Like, I love listening to the Get Out score.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can listen to that in my car on the drive
Yeah.
anytime. Yeah, so those are our thoughts on some other Black creatives that we're highlighting in the industry. Michael Abels and the Ebo sisters. Definitely check them out on IMDb. When we return, we'll focus on some cinematographers that you may or may not know about. Stay right there.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Do the right thing.
Bones, man.
That's right.
Don't think I'm not bringing up Bones.
Welcome back to B&B Movie Reviews. So now we are going to talk about a couple of black cinematographers that are working in the industry that you may not know about.
But you totally should.
You should know about them.
Ernest Dickerson,
Ernest
one
Dickerson.
of the great cinematographers. Worked
He's been
with
working
Spike
for
Lee,
a long time.
Shot Malcolm X, Jungle Fever, School Days.
Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing.
Yeah.
What I loved about him as a cinematographer was his embracing of colors as emotional communicators.
Yes.
You know, you watch Do the Right Thing, so much of the emotional experience is being told through the use of color.
He uses color brilliantly.
Yes.
I love the way he uses color. And the first time I think I took notice of that was in Do the Right Thing. A lot of that is also due, I think, to production design, but as well, the way that he uses color, the way that he's able to show that block and the heat exhaustion, and the way that he uses contrast and the way colors come in through the windows. I think specifically about some of the interior scenes with Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee.
Yeah.
He does some brilliant lighting with a lot of his movies. He also did the Denzel Washington movie. Was it
Mo Better Blues?
Mo Better Blues.
Yeah.
So he's done a lot of.
But my favorite era of Ernest Dickerson is when he transitioned out of being Spike's guy to being his own director in the 90s. And he made some very strange films, which I imagine not a lot of the people watching have seen.
What strange films have you made, Brian?
I'm talking about real genre pictures, like B movies. We're talking Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Yeah.
We're talking Ice-T's Surviving the Game.
Yeah.
We're talking Bones with Snoop Dogg and Pam Grier. You know, when Jaws was made, that was a B movie elevated by A filmmakers. They took a B plot about a shark eating some people, and they paired it with some A filmmakers like Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah.
And they made a masterpiece. And that's what Ernest Dickerson does. He takes these really cheap ideas and he elevates them. And he takes cheaper ideas than Jaws and elevates them.
Yeah, he does, because those movies do have a good sense of style and everything. I want to switch a little bit and go to someone else who's working in the industry and is kind of moving forward, a younger cinematographer, Bradford Young. Bradford Young has done some great, and we talked a little bit about lighting with Ernest Dickerson, and they kind of come from the same school. I've always loved the cinematography of like Conrad Hall and Roger Deakins. And
smoke and light,
shadow. The way they use shadows, the way they use composition and light and dark, everything. And Bradford Young does that a lot. One movie he worked with Denis Villeneuve, and he shot Arrival. Arrival is a beautiful looking movie. He's worked with Ava DuVernay. He did Selma. He did When They See Us, the miniseries on Netflix, which is
light and smoke in that.
Looks really good. A Violent Year. We talked about color with Ernest Dickerson, the way that he uses color and mood, the way he's able to use mood with that. Solo, a Star Wars story. He shot that movie. You know, some people may disagree on that, on whether they like that movie a lot. I thought his cinematography was actually really good with that.
What's so
film.
great about Bradford Young is that he knows how to incorporate digital photography as well, digital effects too.
Yes.
There is a seamlessness to a film like Arrival, where you know there's a lot of CGI going on. It's not as obvious as what you see in Solo: A Star Wars Story, but it's there.
Yeah.
But you don't really think about it when you watch that movie.
You don't. So it's great seeing a lot of these young black creatives and filmmakers working in the industry that a lot of people may not know about, but they definitely should, start to kind of see how they have contributed to the cinema that we watch.
Every filmmaker we've talked about on this show so far, I would hope our audience would go to IMDb.
Yeah.
Click on their names and scroll through their filmography and just start renting movies.
Yeah, and definitely check those out. So Yeah, thank you for joining us on this latest episode of B&B Movie Reviews. Hopefully we've been able to shed some light on some of the Black creators that you may not have been familiar with, and let's continue to support these creative artists in front and behind the camera. Come be a part of the conversation. If you have questions, suggestions, feel free to email us at bnbmoviereviews@gmail.com. And with that, we'll see you at the movies.